channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
Okay, for a few years now, the HX Stomp has really been the heart of my rig. And a couple of things have happened recently that made me think about maybe changing things up a bit. So I've had this board that I put together. I put together like a hybrid rig with it in mind that the HX Stomp is essentially running a couple of delays. It's not on. A couple of delays as well as an amp and cab and a reverb that goes to the front of house in the bands or band that I play. And then the idea was that I could have a hybrid kind of setup where if I want, HX Stomp could be split off to an amp. Now, in situations where I didn't have an amp, I didn't necessarily love this setup as much, but the hybrid setup has been working for me for a while. I had one situation where it's a battery-powered board, essentially, and I had it plugged into, you know, one of those power supplies on and off switches, and it's not that clear whether they're on or off. And in the middle of Mamma Mia, my board just cut out and stopped working, and I was like, oh dear. And it took a while to kind of get enough charge to turn back on, and this has made me think, okay. And then I was relaying that story to someone, and they said, well, what would happen if that power supply, like, did you not have like a backup? And I was like, you got a point there. So I'm thinking, is it time to maybe ditch some of these pedals? Another thing happened. I did this gig on a Saturday, and a bass player showed up with just a Sans amp. It's an in-ear gig, just a Sans amp, one case, you know, stuck it all in there. Sounded great. So I was thinking, right, let's try something smaller. So what I wanted to do was actually set up an HX Stomp preset and makes use of an extra foot switch, because what I found is that 3 snapshots by themselves doesn't quite get me the range that I'm looking for. You can easily pack a tiny kind of 2-way foot switch. I thought an expression pedal is actually less useful for me than 2 foot switches. I'll show you what it's doing, and the idea is that this could still be like hybrid, but I don't need the pedals part of it. It's a little bit more reliable because I could just take 2 HX Stomps, one in the car, one here, running exactly the same preset, and then the foot switch. If the amp goes down, I'm still going to front of house. If the HX Stomp goes down, I just bring in the other HX Stomp. It's simple in that regard, really small. I wish this kind of thing existed about 10 years ago when I went to Israel for a gig. I had to use the Yamaha multi-stomp, that's it. I used one of those with a TC Electronics Dark Matter, a Line 6 M5. But, you know, you can get a lot out of all of this. So I'm going to show you how I'm using it, and hopefully you might have some ideas about other stuff you could do. I think, so the thing to remember with this is that if I need to be going into an amp as well, that essentially my amp and cab needs to be last in the chain, and so all the things happening need to go before that amp, before that split, so I can then split off out of the send in front of the amp. So I'm using the Grammatico GSG, and that's like a Dumble clean. I've got 3 snapshots here. So my clean, essentially all that's on is a compressor. If I press B, I get a dotted delay. If I press A, I get a bit of extra drive, so I think this is kicking on a Diana drive or a Zen drive. So that kind of covers some of the clean aspects. Okay, for my drive, I'm kicking on a Timmy. So this is like my rhythm tone. If I press A for here, I kick on the Zen drive as well, but they've got kind of slightly different settings per snapshot, so that essentially this just gives me a...
like a chunkier rhythm tone. So I've got kind of 2 levels there of rhythm tone. So if I need to get kind of big and chunky, or less chunky, I've got that covered. And then here, my solo snapshot kicks on a delay as well as stacks the Timmy and the Zen drive. And I've got slightly different settings, as I said again. In the snapshots, it changes kind of the level and a little bit of the relationship. If I can get a level kind of below gain by pressing A as well. So really flexible. As well as kind of doing the things that I like a super smooth. But as I say, like I'm getting some of that element of the flexibility that I wanted with the pedal board in terms of having that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm going to give this a go on a couple of gigs. I'm just thinking, let's get back to simplicity. I've been trying this pedalboard idea. I've had one scare, and I thought, actually, maybe simple is better. You know, easier to take it to the gig, easier to collect it. Still modular, still flexible, but the HX Stomp with these 2 foot switches, I think, is enough to get me through a gig. And also get tones that I'm digging. I'm not making compromises here. These are things that I actually think sound just as good. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you want to check this preset out, I'll drop it up into the Gumroad folder. It's called JC Dumble Live. Something of a moment of truth here as well. I'm going to try plugging it into, so at this end, into the front of the amp. So this is the idea that I can involve an amp or not. And kind of flexible in that way. So everything is happening before the amp. So that's the direct tone. Let's just dial in the amp a little bass. A very noisy reverb knob. Delay. Zen drive on the clean. Okay, my rhythm. Stacked rhythm. And my lead. Step
down lead. So play this with a bit more. So that's kind of working quite nicely. So just check the levels between all of that. Yes, I've got enough boost for my solo. The only thing